In the early morning haze of September 24th, 2025, a quiet Dallas neighborhood became the stage for an act of calculated terror that shattered lives and exposed the depths of human hatred. At the U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement Field Office, or ICE, on North Stemmons Freeway, a lone gunman perched on a rooftop unleashed a barrage of bullets, targeting those sworn to uphold the law, but instead claiming the lives of innocent detainees trapped in the crossfire. This was no random outburst. It was premeditated assault driven by anti-ICE ideology, an evil plot that left two families devastated and a nation questioning the fragility of safety in our institutions. Today, in this true crime awareness exploration, we dive into the chilling story of Joshua Jahn, the 29-year-old perpetrator whose ordinary facade hid a monstrous intent to sow fear and destruction. Joshua Jahn seemed like an ordinary person on the surface, a young man drifting through life in the suburbs of North Texas. Born in April 1996, he grew up in Allen, Texas, before settling in nearby Fairview with his family, occasionally residing in Durant, Oklahoma. Jahn attended Collin College sporadically from 2013 to 2018, but never earned a degree, and he had a brief stint at the University of Texas at Dallas over a decade earlier. His work history was patchy. Short-term retail jobs, a seasonal gig harvesting legal marijuana in Washington State in 2017, where he lived out of his car, and a brief role installing solar panels in Texas. The following year, by 2019, records show no further employment, painting a picture of a man drifting around, perhaps simmering with resentments. Friends from his high school remembered him as an avid gamer, logging over 10,000 hours on platforms like Steam, playing titles such as Team Fortress 2 and Rust. With interest in sharing internet memes, his love of cars, South Park, and weed. His Reddit account, not yet released to the public, has been inactive for years, and it was filled with hobbies, but nothing hinted at the darkness brewing within. Yet cracks in this facade emerged through his brushes with the law and subtle political leanings. In 2015, Jahn was arrested in Collin County, Texas, for marijuana possession, pleading guilty the next year to a felony charge, paying a $500 fine and serving probation. He was a registered independent voter in Oklahoma, casting his last ballot in November 2024, and had participated in the 2020 Texas Democratic presidential primary. Family members, including his brother Noah, insisted Jahn wasn't politically fervent. He rarely discussed issues like immigration and doubted his marksmanship skills, though he knew how to handle his parents' rifle from Boy Scouts days. But one former acquaintance, an unnamed fellow member of Jahn's Boy Scout troop from Allen, Texas. This individual who knew Jahn since their earlier teens spoke anonymously to outlets like NBC News about a conversation several years ago, where Jahn expressed frustration over migrant caravans and broader immigration handling. He described Jahn as upset about, quote-unquote, people not understanding desperation to get out of a bad situation, framing it as a rare political event rather than deep ideology, contrasting Jahn's later anti-ICE notes, a seed of discontent that may have festered into something far more sinister. Unbeknownst to those around him, Jahn was descending into a vortex of hatred, one that would culminate in an act of pure evil. Jahn's plan began to take shape in the weeks leading up to that fateful morning. In August 2025, Jahn legally purchased a 8mm bolt-action rifle, a weapon he could later load with armor-piercing rounds, etched with the chilling message, anti-ICE. His online searches lead police to find a chilling discovery, downloading lists of Department of Homeland Security facilities, researching apps to track ICE agents, studying ballistics, and even viewing footage of the recent assassination of conservative figure Charlie Kirk, which is what some speculate that could have inspired his attack. Handwritten notes recovered from his possessions reveal his twisted mindset. I want to cause terror. He also goes on to describe the ICE operations as human trafficking, and agents as those showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. Another note affirmed his solidarity evil. Yes, it was just me and my brain. He envisioned instilling real terror in ICE employees, forcing them to wonder if a sniper lurked on every rooftop. Around 3 a.m. on September 24th, surveillance captured Jahn arriving at the scene in his car, which bore a bizarre sign about radioactive fallout, a possible red herring or a glimpse into his unraveling mind. He hauled a large ladder to scale the roof of a nearby attorney's office, positioning himself in the shadows, waiting for dawn to break. As the sun crept over the horizon at approximately 6:40 a.m., the horror unfolded. From his elevated perch, Jahn opened fire indiscriminately on the ICE facility's sally port, a fortified entryway where a transport van carrying detainees had just arrived. Witnesses heard 6 to 10 deafening shots ring out, bullets piercing through the air. The van became a death trap. 3 detainees inside were struck, their cries echoing in the confined space as chaos erupted. No ICE agents were harmed, but the facility bore the scars, bullet holes riddling the walls and shredding an American flag. As responding officers closed in, Jahn turned the rifle on himself, ending his own life. Dozens of police units and ambulances swarmed the scene, evacuating staff and securing the area. But the damage was done. The victims of this heinous attack were not the intended targets, yet they bore the full brunt of his malice. Norland Guzman Fuentes, a 37-year-old from El Salvador, was pronounced dead at the scene, his life extinguished in an instant. Miguel Angel Garcia Hernandez, 32, originally from San Luis Potosi, Mexico, had built a life in Dallas over 2 decades as a house painter and family man. He left behind a wife, expecting their 3rd child together, and 4 young children who now face an unimaginable void. Garcia Hernandez fought for 6 days before succumbing to his injuries on September 30th. His mother by his side, as life support has been withdrawn. A senseless tragedy that resulted in the loss of 2 men's lives at the cost of unchecked hatred. The 3rd victim, a Venezuelan man whose identity remains protected, survived, but in critical condition. These men were more than detainees. They were fathers, workers, and dreamers, caught in a web of violence not of their making. In the aftermath, the FBI swiftly classified the shooting as targeted violence and an act of terrorism with no evidence of accomplices or group affiliations. Acting U.S. Attorney Nancy E. Larson condemned it as the very definition of terrorism, while Vice President J.D. Vance labeled Jahn as a violent left-wing extremist motivated by political animus against border enforcement. Civil rights groups criticized federal officials for initially withholding the victims' details, highlighting ongoing tensions in immigration policy. Jahn's notes revealed his goal to interfere with ICE's work by instilling paralyzing fear. Though, ironically, his bullets struck the very people he claimed to view as victims. The investigation uncovered no further ties to broader movements, but the echoes of similar attacks, like recent shootings with anti establishment messaging, raise alarms about rising extremism. The weeks following after Charlie Kirk's death, I've been noticing a lot more violence in our community across all of the US. So, a lot of people say this could be targeted against ICE. Some others say no, this was actually meant for the immigrants, and that this Jan character was specifically targeting the immigrants. There's a lot of divide on that. But regardless of the target, this is a stark reminder of the hatred in our community. You know, it's disguised in everyday lives, and it can erupt into an evil that claims innocent victims. While Jan's attack may have targeted symbols of authority or the immigrants, it really shows the vulnerabilities in our systems and the need for vigilance in preventing these attacks. Remember, everything we hear or we see are subjective interpretations, opinions, and perspectives shaped by individual bias and experiences or contexts rather than objective facts or absolute truth. In a divided world, awareness is one of our strongest tools to keep us from further dividing each other. It's still pretty early on in the investigation, so people are still really divided. But I'd like to know what you guys are thinking in the comment section. Do you think Jan actually did it because he hated ICE, or was it because he was actually targeting the immigrants? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for watching.